What up? Welcome to November. Well, it's cold as fuck and gonna take care of a problem this Tahoe's had for a while. We've got no heat in the rear heating and air conditioning unit. This thing has two separate heaters in it. So I'm gonna turn this one, the front one up. Got Mr. Thermometer. We'll let him get warm and we can see what we got here.
Lights are turned down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Even just after a couple minutes of running, we're over 120 coming out of the dash vents. So in this truck, it's got a controller up here, up above the rear view mirror, and it's also got one down here. But just so you guys can see what's going on, I'll use this one down here. So I've got the temperature turned all the way up to 90. I don't know if you can hear that fan kick going back there, but it definitely is moving some air. So let's record the temperature out of the rear heating and air unit. And we're at like a cool 60 degrees out of those top vents. So I verified that I've got good heat up front at the front heating unit, and I have pretty much no heat at the rear heating unit. I mean, these heater units work pretty much the same. You get hot coolant from the motor that comes into the heater core. You've got a line that goes from the heater core back to the motor. Each unit has one or more temperature doors. When that door turns, that door determines what temperature of air is going to get pumped through the system. So we can have a problem with that temperature door not working in the rear heating unit. We could also have a problem where we're not getting hot enough coolant back there to go through the rear heater core. So I think from a do-it-yourself standpoint, let's see if we've got good hot coolant going into the rear heater core first. So we're going to go underneath the right rear of the truck. As you can see, there's a series of big pipes back here in the right rear corner. Two are for the air conditioner and two are for the heater. This hose right here is really hot. And so is this one. We know we've got hot stuff going back into the rear heater core. There's no real easy way to do this stuff. We're going to collect some evidence. We're going to see what's going on here. Now, while you're going to see me use my scan tool and stuff, it doesn't mean you can't do none of this. Just watch. So we're going to go to the rear aux climate module. Let's look for some DTCs. And BO434. Temperature control 3 feedback circuit range performance. Well, we do have a problem with temperature control, but it's related. And pulled up another B code. I'm just going to sweep this from hot to cold for the temperature. And nothing happens. So my air temperature, turn this all the way up to high. My air temperature does respond to that. So the computer for the rear heating and air conditioning system is getting a reading that it should be commanding the door to hot, but it's not. So we got to dig a little bit deeper. Y'all didn't really think this is going to be some kind of fast and easy video, did you? Computer controlled stuff. Please. So my best course of action now is to look up that code for the temperature door and see what's going on there. Okay, well, it's cold as fuck out there, so I came inside for a minute to do all this. So here's what we know. We know that we have hot coolant at the rear heater core. We know that the rear HVAC module does work because the fan speed works. It'll also switch the mode from ceiling to floor. So we know that the control module does work. We know that we have a DTC for rear temperature control. And I went and Googled this, and there actually is a TSB for our code, which states that the door may be warped and the symptom is only cold air, which is kind of what we got. So knowing that, we can go through the 21-step DTC troubleshooting steps, which will take forever. We can guess and throw parts at it, which is what inspired this video. Or we can actually test the actuator. We can move the blend door and see if the temperature changes. And we can test the control module itself. You guys been watching me for a while. You know exactly which one we're going to do. So let's get up a schematic and come up with a plan of what we're going to do. So here's the plan. Our auxiliary controller is mounted right to the HVAC unit. The temperature door is also mounted to the HVAC unit. So of course we're going to have to access the rear HVAC unit first. Then I think we're going to remove the actuator and try to move the door by hand just to see if it turns. We'll test the controller and the actuator. And if possible, I want to try to move this thing to at least warm and until a repair can be made. This is totally unscripted. I don't know what we're going to find back here. We might need a controller. We might need an actuator. The door might be broken. I don't know. Our rear HVAC box is behind this big trim panel. To get that thing off, a lot of the little trim pieces that go around it, they all have to come off. Pull it up on that little trim piece. Got him out of the way. And then back here at the rear seat belt, there's a T45 Torx bolt. Well, it looks like we had one casualty of war. Oh, fuck him. Man, my Trailblazer has these same things. They're fucking assholes. On my Trailblazer, I had to use vice grips to get these off. Looks like there's a push pin here. Back in there's the electrical connector. Squeeze this guy in. So here's our rear HVAC unit in all its glory. This is that air temp actuator we were talking about. And there's the computer for the rear HVAC system. So let's pull out the actuator and see if the door works. Now I'm going to grab this piece right here. What you're hearing is that door kick back and forth. So if we let this truck warm back up and we take and we move this door over, we should have heat coming out of the vents. So let's try that. So let's see if we can get the temperature up in the roof back up to hot. Before we do any of this, I'm going to mark where this actuator was. So I'm just aligning where this notch is right here. So the first test is going to be power on the brown wire. So I've got my meter grounded right here at this little stud. Got the red lead of my meter, back probing the brown wire, which is our power feed, and we're reading battery voltage. Our battery voltage is at 14 because the truck's running. If I went over there and turned the key off, it would be 12.4 or 12.6, something like that. Since it's running, we're at 14 volts. So that test is good. Next test, we should have ground on the yellow wire. I'm just going to back probe the yellow wire. We read battery voltage. So back to our checklist here. Yep. So now we're going to do our jumper test. We're going to monitor this 5-volt signal, then we're going to do our jumpers. So if we want to monitor the signal, we're going to grab our ground there. Our signal wire should be dark blue. That should be the next to the last one up here. All I have is a little jumper wire. I'm just going to put a T-pin in one. And since for some reason I lost the whole pack of T-pins, I'm just going to put a leather style of pin in the other. We're back probing the dark blue wire. We're going to jump white and black to gray. see our door moved. So again, white, black to gray. Our door moves. So really what I should do is I should put another mark right there. Now if we jump black and white to yellow, it should move all the way back. And it does. What we're actually doing right there is, instead of letting the computer control the black and white wire to move this actuator, we're actually doing it by jumping it. We're jumping it to ground and we're jumping it to 5 volts. So from the way things look, our actuator seems to be okay. The problem might be with the module itself not supplying the right signal to move the motor. And I want to see what happens on the control circuit. I want to see if we get a voltage on the white and black wire that changes depending on where we turn the temperature. We're at 2.5 volts. The temperature is all the way at hot. Let's see if it changes if we go to cold. And it didn't change. Going back to our information, if the actuator moves, test white black output, and that's from the module. We didn't have any, no matter what we did. So that kind of tells us that the module itself is bad. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to replace the HVAC auxiliary control module. It's a Sunday. There's no way I'm going to get it today. Actually, I probably won't even get it this month. Christmas is coming up and shit. So what I want to do is I want to make it so that I only have heat back here for now, just to get me through the winter time. If we know that the door is rotated all the way clockwise, we have cold air. If the door is rotated around a little bit counterclockwise, almost facing like that, we have heat. Well, if we just let go of this door, it just flops around. Since we have a good actuator, why don't we just manually turn the shaft using our jumper wires to get it to hot, bolt it back up in place, and then unplug it. So that way it just stays on hot. I mean, it's a good workaround, I think. So to do this, we got to turn the key back on so we have power at this connector. So we'll just take our jumper wires, and we're going to go from gray to white with the black stripe. Keep going. And we're going to unplug them. Let's start this thing up again and make sure that we have heat. This is the alignment of the actuator with the door all the way up. Back to our notes here. So we access the rear HVAC system. We removed the temperature actuator. We moved the door. We tested the controller and the actuator. I feel that we have a bad controller in this case. And we were able to move the door to warm until a repair can be made. So I'm pretty happy with the way things went. So I'm going to put this thing back together, and then let's talk about what brought me here. Nice. I'm probably not even going to plug him back in. So there you have it. Depending on how you look at it, this rear heating and air conditioning system isn't as scary and complicated as you may have thought. When we came back here and did the test at the HVAC box, we didn't need the scan tool at all. So really, we could have kind of just jumped right to this stuff even if we didn't have the scan tool. With the symptom of rear HVAC only blowing cold, I mean, we kind of made it do it yourself. I started thinking about this probably about a year ago. I had the Yukon version of this truck, the GMC version. It's the same thing. With the same symptom, except it was stuck on hot. I couldn't get cold air out of the vents. I went through the diagnostic steps and it pointed to the controller being the problem. Found the controller on Amazon, and it was just so happened that I read through the feedback for the product and I just couldn't believe what I saw. In the questions and answers section, people were saying that if you didn't have heat or cold air, you couldn't change the temperature, that all you needed to do was put in a new module. What the fuck is wrong with people? You mean to tell me you could tell what is wrong with this truck right now without even looking at it, without even doing any testing of any sort? I mean, for all we know, the rear heater core was leaking and the previous owner bypassed it. So if we didn't have hot coolant coming into the rear heater core, we never would have got rear heat. You telling me you want me to replace a control module for that? So you mean to tell me that without testing the temperature during this thing, you automatically know that it's the computer that needs to be replaced? People should not be posting auto repair advice on Amazon. A lot of people shouldn't be posting auto repair advice anywhere, but that's a totally different topic. The point here is that if I would have bought the computer and I would have put it in this case, it probably would have fixed the problem. I would not tell somebody else that they need to put a computer in theirs, and I'm definitely not going to do it to mine. Yes, it took time to test this shit and collect evidence and determine what we needed to do, but hey, I know that I'm not wasting any money throwing parts at a problem. Finally get to use these rear cup holders. So there you have it. I don't know how I'm going to title this thing, because this is more, we didn't really actually fix shit. We really just did a diagnostic and a workaround. So I don't know how I'll title it, but hopefully you didn't get the wrong impression that, we were actually going to fix this thing today. If I had the means, I would go ahead and do it, but it works now. Like I said, Christmas is coming up. I don't have money for none of that other shit right now. You know what I mean? So anyway, that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. And yes, the 15,000 subscriber special is coming. Stay tuned. See ya. Uh-oh. I locked myself in the Tahoe.